Okay, let's call to order the March meeting, or the late February, early March meeting of the Town of Newbury Human Resources Board. It is 4:03. Present are
Diane Doyle.
Mark Kleckman.
John Ferrara.
Anthony Antico.
Lynn Peabody.
Thank you all for being here, having to reschedule after last Monday's storm. We're hoping that Chief Fisher is able to join us as well. But if she's been called away unexpectedly, we do have a quorum, so we're all set to go. First order of business is to approve minutes from prior meetings. Diane, as always, thank you for having put these out in advance. First set of minutes we'll look at is the minutes from the meeting of November 24th, 2025. Have folks had an opportunity to poke through that? Are you like a minute? All set?
Yep.
Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as written for the November 24th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. And the next set of minutes we're looking at are those from the subcommittee meeting which we held on Thursday, January 29th. John, you were not at this meeting, but reading through the minutes, you're certainly allowed to vote on it
I have read
as you
through.
see fit. Take a minute to review them. Is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written for the Thursday, January 29th meeting, say aye.
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 Thank you all. Diane, we turn to you, any employee issues that you're aware of, or
Nothing I'm aware of.
nor am I? Personnel actions and job vacancies, I know we've had a little bit of activity over the last month or so.
I'm trying to recall all the ones.
Oh, is there one?
Alright, so we have our new DPW laborer position that's filled. That came as the result of one of our employees resigning and moving south. We've since had 2 full-time fireman position resignations. One has moved to, I believe, private, not to another municipality. And one was kind of anticipated, he came up for a position in his hometown, so he's moved to Lynn. So we've had those 2 openings as full-time firemen, and one of them has since been appointed and filled from an internal candidate, and he is starting March, I can't remember the date that he's starting.
Was that
I think he might have started actually today.
was that a call firefighter?
So it
or-
was a call firefighter EMT that actually took the position
Right.
and filled internally, so we still have one opening for a full-time fireman. I know Patty has some openings,
Right,
so she can speak to that if she comes.
Okay.
And then we have a harbor master helper for this summer who has asked, she's resigned and she's asking not to come back. Those are seasonal positions, she's been with us for a while, I think maybe it's a seasonal, helper position, I think maybe she's gotten a job that prohibits her from being able to do that, so. That's all I can think of, without having all those other ones.
library, everything's good there?
Library, everyone is on board. House on Aging, everyone is on board. That's pretty much what I can think of.
Okay, thank you. I did see a recent advertisement that the chief had posted on social media somewhere for one of the full-time patrol positions. I'm not sure what she's in the process there.
Yep.
So I think a couple of weeks ago.
I think she has one open and one anticipated to be open.
Well, hopefully if she's able to join us, she can articulate that further. Thank you. I'm not aware of any workplace issues, ethics issues, discrimination issues. Nothing has hit my radar screen.
No.
You would have heard otherwise, so that's good there. Safety issues, nothing's happening in town hall that.
No, I know that we are in the process of doing an ADA compliant audit, making sure that all of our offices are ADA accessible, so that's something that's beginning. I think it sort of leans into a safety issue, making
Yep.
sure that
Sure.
we're compliant. I know that that was a town-wide organizational goal for 2026, 2027. So I know that's sort of started.
Mhm.
Short of that, I don't have any other details, but
Diane, when was the last time we had an audit like that?
I don't think we've had one here because this was supposed to be temporary space for us in
Yep.
2015. I know that, I believe there was a grant solidified for us to be able to complete that since we anticipate being here for some additional time. I don't think we've ever had one done here.
Have we, since we moved in 2015, have we kind of done our own ADA compliant projects,
Yes.
audits?
So
Okay, good.
so the management company of the building has done some,
Okay,
handicap accessible buttons to access different, the council on aging, the bathrooms, that kind of thing. So I know that they've done, as a landlord, as a property owner, they've done some updates and changes to make sure that bathrooms are handicap accessible, the COA is handicap accessible. But I just mention it because when you say safety, I think of ADA compliant.
sure.
I mean,
Good.
So that's underway, that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. Anything else on that one?
Nope, all
That's it?
set, thank you.
Yep. Okay, other issues, the Reserve Compensation Fund review, starting to move forward a bit. I did take the opportunity to send everyone
Mhm.
this, what I call mock-up, for lack of a better term, of what a town meeting warrant article might look like, based on very preliminary conversations that we've had with Tracy. Let me just open up the floor to any thoughts. Let me just preface it by saying that there's going to be a lot of wordsmithing that goes into this. And this simple stuff, town manager should be town administrator, things like that. But, this was meant to be a first pass of what ultimately the select board may or may not choose to put on the warrant for town meeting. So we're still kind of in the early stages here, but I think it's important that over the next 60 days, give or take, we get this moved forward. As I mentioned in the note to everyone, this is based on the vote we took in a meeting back, I think it was in October or November. We don't have any jurisdiction in this matter in terms of this fund, but, we acted in an advisory capacity, and I think I can speak comfortably for the board, saying that we all thought that it was, at least in theory, a good idea. And it would be nice if the town had had the opportunity to create this reserve fund with the understanding that in some years, a piece of this fund may be used, in other years it may not. It may just sit there, in which case it reverts back to the general fund. It doesn't stay in perpetuity, and that's part of the language wordsmithing that we have to consider here.
And that's separate from a rollover to the next year.
It will not roll over.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the.
By law, it cannot roll over.
Is there any, I made 2 calls to folks at Manchester by the Sea, and neither one of them is a past financial board member, and the other on the human resources, both of them no longer serving. But they had no memory of auxiliary account. And one of them went so far as to speculate that they're probably prohibited. Have you ever run into any prohibition?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, No, my understanding is that as long as it's structured properly,
Yep,
you know, Mass General Law, Newbury Town Meeting, I mean, there'll be lots of figures in the pie here. But again, as a layperson, my understanding is that there are towns that have created, call it what you will, reserve funds, temporary funds, you know, they come by different names. But there are certain statutory requirements that go along with the creation of this fund that need to be followed.
and how
So-
about the list of appropriate expenditures, what it may be, may not be used for?
Well, I think that's covered in the first, at least for now, it's covered in the first half of that first
Yeah,
paragraph, that these could be compensation adjustments, either short-term or ongoing, related to,
Do you have, Tony doesn't have his copy with him.
you don't have your copy?
I can make
this
a
one
copy.
right here.
Maybe share
I'm
with
looking
John?
on
you
my
should.
phone.
I noted that, and actually made comment, and Patty Fisher was the only one that responded. I said that could be a Pandora's box. In other words, if the entire community knows there's a reserve there for seasonal, non-seasonal adjustments, will that initiate or be kind of the inauguration of too many people saying, I need some more help?
I mean, theoretically, that could happen, sure.
Yeah, it just seemed a Pandora's box.
But again, you know, by and large, we're gonna be restricted by, you know, our classification grid. You know, as always, it's up to the town administrator and/or department managers to determine, you know, what their staffing looks like, what their budget looks like, compensation looks like. So the understanding I've had all along is that if we create this fund, it will be done so that there will be a pool available on an as-needed basis under extraordinary circumstances
Okay.
where it's determined that somebody is way out of whack relative to the marketplace, or somebody's taken on dramatically new responsibilities during the course of a year, an adjustment might need to be made, things along those lines. But again, I don't want us to get ahead of the process here. This is the raw footage, if you will. Town administrator needs to weigh in on it, select board needs to weigh in on it, town council needs to weigh in on it, and most importantly, town meeting needs to weigh in on it. There needs to be, you know, proper justification for it. And I'm quite sure that at town meeting, there'll be questions about it, as there always are at town meeting about expenditures above and beyond standard budget.
What would be a traditional level of put aside? How much money we're talking about?
There's no rhyme or, you know, could be $25,000, could be $50,000, could be something in between. There's no rule of thumb here. It's whatever the town, the select board, town administrator, and town meeting. Those are really the three entities that will, you know, be responsible for determining what the amount might be, if at all. You know, and it may not pass town meeting, in which case it's a moot point.
Yeah.
But it will be
When is our next town meeting? Sorry to interrupt.
May?
Okay,
May.
so a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be under the microscope,
Sure,
right?
as it
for
should be.
the town meeting.
That's, you
Yeah.
know, that's the beauty of this democracy, that, because it sits outside of the normal budget,
Yep,
there will no question be dialogue about it, as there should be.
sure.
So, other thoughts, just in reading through it, does it make sense?
Yep.
Questions? Couple things in this first paragraph, you know, the article itself. I said to Tracy, I thought that fourth line down, as compensation matters as recommended by the Human Resources Board. I'm not sure that should sit in there. You know, we were the one who brought this idea forward, but we're not necessarily gonna be involved in each and every decision about, you know, the usage of this fund. That's up to the town administrator and the select board. So again, that's the kind of language wordsmithing that may or may not take place. I'm sure town council will have significant input here about what should be included in the article and in the explanation for the warrant article, which sits below. But I'm more than happy to take any thoughts and suggestions about language changes, or perhaps we can wait until it gets the bird's eye view from the powers that be.
So who's the next one to
Yeah,
review
What's
this?
the next step?
Tracy and the select board, I think, will, this will be part of the process. You know, the select board over the next, as I understand, again, as a layperson, over the next 2 months is gonna be very busy working with FinCom to create the warrant. Could be 25 articles, it could be 30 articles, who knows? This, in theory, could be one of those articles.
Okay.
So, it's got to have lots of eyeballs on it before it becomes an official part of the warrant, which is why I wanted to get this out to folks now, see what your thoughts are. I'll speak to Tracy sometime over the next 2 or 3 days to find out if she has sat with town council yet to review the appropriateness of this, the language, the principle of it, if you will, and see where we go from there.
I think the tighter the language on sort of extraordinary expenses is gonna be key.
Yep.
Because if it just looks like there's a pool of money for people to just come and,
Right.
request. I think what kind of started this was a situation where we had an employee who left,
Yep.
and we didn't have the funding available on the books to be able to move that to the budget line item, to be able to cover that, and also increase the hours. So I think as tight the language can be under the use of those funds, the
Right.
more likely people are to have an appetite maybe to, have a positive discussion about it.
Well, that was my question, is the idea is it opens the Pandora box that I was describing, is that if the population knows that there's a reserve there, it prompts them to call up and ask for a meeting with their department head and say, I need more hours. And then you wonder if that doesn't have an effect downstream, where the next person in the office knows what's going on and comes in and asks for the very same. And you end up with folks not on their anniversary, but in between anniversaries, coming for pay raises where it's impromptu as opposed to on schedule.
Yeah.
And that was what I mentioned, and I can remember Patty's response was a bit sarcastic, but she was agreeing that'll start a run, I believe the word she used. And that was the reason for my earlier question. And that's partially my thought, but it's also the gentleman I mentioned that felt that it was inappropriate downstream by the sea. Yeah. We discussed it at some measure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are gonna have to be guidelines put in place, and again, that's something that department managers, Tracy, and the select board will have to manage effectively.
Well, it's Tracy's point's well taken. It needs to be an explicit one. You pause with a colon and then give 2 examples or 3 examples, so the extraordinary is not just a broad
Right.
concept, but by example. Good writing, good abstract writing,
Yep.
always follows up new technology, terminology with example.
Right.
Something that people will understand and make them thorough and committed examples of what might look like, an extra dip into the pocket. I don't know.
I think it would be covering any sort of change in maybe hours. It could be pay rate, but that, I'm trying to think, I've lost my train of thought. Once the budget process has been set,
Yeah.
but not for just willy-nilly raises, if you will. There has to be a demonstrated, I would say, financial and or organizational reason for, the need to transfer those funds to another department, not just,
But that's a
people
perfect
seeking.
example.
Yeah.
The department head comes to you or comes to the administrator and says, I need more help in this specific genre. I need to bring Mary Smith, I need 40 more hours a quarter from her. And I need that fund to pick it up. We
Right.
can't wait till her anniversary.
Right.
Well, that's
Well, we can't wait, it's really her, it's not even her anniversary, it's the budget process.
the budget process.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the idea of the element of example. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, organizational need.
Yeah. And we
That goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour.
What do you mean?
explain that.
It may be a situation where somebody says, oh, I have to, X amount of dollars, all right? So how big or how small is it? And people would say, well, listen, you've got the money for it. Why don't you, break it up this way, et cetera.
Well, I'm not talking
So-
about an employee coming to, I'm
No,
talking about a
I'm
manager
talking about
coming.
the manager,
Okay.
because the manager now,
Okay.
has the possibility of getting some monies, et cetera, but also the employee knows about the situation. Well, you got another $100,000, why can't you, you see what I'm saying?
Well, he or she has to justify the
Justify,
administrative level, that the extra help is needed.
But where would it begin? On
It
the
would-
low level, the amount you're gonna have,
It would probably have to begin with the revised job description. If the
Yeah.
position is only
Right.
allotted 20 hours per week,
right,
and they deem, for whatever reason, we really need this person 30 hours a week, which means they're 30 hours a week, we're increasing that department budget, we're also taking on benefits, that there's a real need because of X, Y, and Z demonstrated reasons. That's more specific than, oh, I have Sally that needs to work 10 more hours a week.
Right.
We're changing the job description, we're structuring the department differently, there is a demonstrated need that's documented.
okay.
And here is why, the job description has changed to the point where now this person's gonna be responsible for A, B, C, D, and that's gonna require more hours. So I mean, it's very specifically driven by job description, hours, compensation,
So
classification.
there would have to be limitations on
And I'm,
it.
Oh,
and I'm
absolutely.
thinking about
Yeah.
the example that happened, and that was what it was more hours, it was benefits.
Mhm.
And the other factor is gonna be the marketplace, as also discussed in here briefly. That, I don't think it'll happen much anymore, because I think we've gotten much better at it, but there was a period of time, not too long ago, where we would look at an occasional position in the grid and come to realize that that position had not been upgraded for 11 years. And when you go to the market and you see that, we're in the 40th percentile of compensation for that particular role in comparison to other communities, you need to make an adjustment, otherwise you're gonna lose your staff. So, it's gonna be, I think, those kinds of positions, or those kinds of circumstances which come up hopefully very infrequently, which is why I said that there may be years, and talked to Tracy about that, where this reserve fund isn't touched, in which case it goes right back into the general fund.
I have a question. So Diane, you were saying that Tracy, had some edits to the wording of this, like it should be extreme examples or something like that?
I'm just saying it should be extraordinary changes in the organization of a department, or,
And that came from Tracy?
no,
No,
I'm
no.
saying that personally, I'm saying
Okay.
that. I
All right,
didn't say, I wasn't
so-
quoting Tracy.
So would that then mean, editing the language as it's in our document now?
Yeah, as I started by saying, the language, assuming this moves forward.
Yep.
Assuming that the town administrator, FinCom, and the select board all will have a piece of this decision process. FinCom has to be involved. By the time it passes muster with those three entities, this language is likely to change a bit. This is just the starting point.
So, but you brought up a good point, and this whole discussion is about this point, but reading through this, I mean, this is kind of general language.
Right.
Right? So, short-term and ongoing adjustments, market adjustments, equities, corrections, reclassifications, or other comp matters. And so, those are all kind of typical things that would come up, and so you brought up, extraordinary circumstances, right?
Well, I think it's not gonna be just for people who want a raise, or.
Yeah.
It's,
So are you suggesting then that we would edit the current language to include more of that extraordinary situations?
I'm saying that if we added the language to be a little bit more specific about what it could be used for, the appetite for someone to look at this, it will be probably stronger.
Okay, I agree with you. So looking at this, I mean, I do this all day, every day, and trying to get it to, and now we have a couple of different layers of approvals. You know, we used to be this community hospital, right? And now we have, you know, we're part of a large system, so we have to go through a number of different levels of approvals.
Right.
And so this stuff, you know, I mean, the way that it's written, I think that it would not pass muster.
Right,
So I agree.
no argument, yeah.
I agree that, you know, maybe if we edit the language a little bit, that would help, you know, support the, you know, this effort, you know, going through and getting different levels of approval and editing and all of that in
Right.
place.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'm not sure that this board
Yep,
is the right group to fine print that language. I think FinCom will have a big say in this process, and town council will have a big say in this
Sure.
process. To how, you know, there are very specific guidelines as to how town meeting warrant articles are written,
yep.
and I don't wanna get anywhere near that.
So should we work a little bit more before it even goes to the next step? Or what do we thought?
Well, I think the next step is already started. I'll have to check with Tracy. I'm not sure. I showed her this the other day, and I thought she said that she would review it and talk to town council about whether it's even in the right ballpark.
Okay,
And from there, then you know, it hasn't gotten to the select board yet.
yeah,
It's gonna have to be an agenda item on a select board meeting
yeah,
and an agenda item on a FinCom meeting. Or
Yeah.
maybe at some point, I think over the next 2 months, they actually have combined meetings, so maybe that'll be the right step. Because they both have to buy off on the warrant process, so
okay, so is this going to Tracy?
she's got it,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we have any opportunity to make any edits at this point, or has that ship sailed?
No, absolutely.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
we're hearing now. One word that I would X out of the proposal would be the word unanticipated. I'd make that critical or exceptional.
Unanticipated, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's just,
Where is that?
it's warrant explanation. It's
Oh, the
a,
explanation.
it's an element of, it's the message. We're a well-formed, well-executed, and trustworthy government service, and unanticipated sort of
Yeah.
sends a different message. Just say compensation fund to address critical or exceptional compensation adjustments versus unanticipated, sort of like it's a surprise. You know, I wouldn't want to connote it as surprise, more just well thought out, critical and exceptional. Again, you listening to a manager coming to your office, into Tracy's office and saying, look, we have a new raison d'etre, and I need 40 more hours out of these two people, and I need to move forward on that. Then the process starts. And again, like I mentioned before, beyond that sentence, critical compensation adjustments, an example.
So what's the wording that you're considering?
Taking out
To address,
unanticipated and putting critical and or exceptional in there instead.
Patty is not gonna make it. She had something that came up, Patty.
Okay,
of addressing compensation. Okay, and then this is a word that you added since this, right? To reserve compensation fund for the purposes of addressing.
you're in the wrong spot. This is the warrant explanation.
Okay,
below.
all right, I'm still up here
Scan this
then.
and
Okay.
email it to you.
Great, I appreciate that.
So how about if we put something right there of, you know, maybe urgent? What about the word urgent in there? Or something like that, you can cross it out, you know, certainly. But, and that would be similar to the critical or exceptional.
Yeah, I worry about unanticipated and urgent because it sends a message to the 6,000 who are not on these boards and committees, and it's sort of, you know, shaking the bag as opposed to well thought out, anticipated all along. We know by history of example that these events occur, and we've had some examples where because we didn't have the fund, we lost somebody, or we didn't get work done. And so rather than make it sound like it is unanticipated, it's very anticipated. That's why we're bringing the matter up. It's happened before, and we have primary examples. And then you don't have to be abashed about anything and explaining. No mea culpas. We're doing this because it's intelligent town management work,
Well,
town
but,
administration work.
Unanticipated means that it wasn't factored
Yeah.
into the original budget.
and you know, the market is fluid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, I still like the word urgent, compensation adjustments, including both short-term and ongoing adjustments, market adjustments, equity considerations. Those can all come up urgently,
Yeah.
you know, like all of a sudden, somebody is looking for a job in another town and, you know, they're gonna get X amount more money. And so that is unanticipated, but it's also urgent for us. I mean, it was not expected, right? And so, I see exception, critical. I don't know, I think that if we,
But that's a different difficult example. Should this fund be used to compete against another village? If a person's position in hours assigned in this town, or she or he leaves because there are more hours available in village number 2, do we now have to match village number 2, even though we don't really need that much work from that person?
okay,
But that's, yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, then that's not a documented need,
Yeah,
which
Right.
would justify the reason to increase the hours, et cetera, et cetera.
there's-
We could have somebody that works part-time for us, they find a full-time job somewhere else, we're not gonna make a full-time job that doesn't exist.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
ideal language.
but that can be under market also, you know, market movement, market adjustments, or other compensation. Did you cross out
See, I don't
compensation and do
even
admin?
I don't even like market.
I don't know, I mean, this stuff comes up and it's not
No,
planned,
that
right?
was town administrator
How did you
versus
load
town
that on your
manager.
phone?
What?
How
Sorry.
did you load that on your phone?
So it's in Mark's email as an attachment.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't note that. Oh, that's right.
You
It
didn't
wasn't-
notice it?
Well, I've got it right here, but I
You
just,
are so on top of these things.
I just never occurred to me that I could load that on my phone.
Yeah, so from his email, you know, there's an attachment, so I
Okay.
just clicked on the attachment.
Understood.
I mean, I'm wondering how much of this we need to get into the weeds.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
about as
Because,
well. I'd like,
because it is saying that it will be administered by the town manager with the approval of the select board. I think we can, you know, I mean, it's up to them, once they review it, along with the FinCom, to decide the language that they deem appropriate to administer the fund. I think our role is to say, do we think
Does it
this,
make sense?
does it make sense?
Right.
And I'm assuming that town council will also be looking
Oh,
at this. So
absolutely.
I would think between the town administrator, the select board, the FinCom, and the legal
That's what I'm saying,
counsel,
right.
they will flush out how the wording should be in terms of
Okay.
how they want to
Yeah.
administer the fund.
Yeah.
We will not be administering the fund.
correct.
Right,
No.
So-
right, and that's in here, right, the HR
Yes.
board, right, and so we're gonna take us out of this?
Yeah, I would suggest that we do that. I don't want
Right.
people to
Oh, right here.
misunderstand. The HR board was the entity that brought this recommendation forward as a good idea, but that's where our responsibility starts and stops. We have nothing to do with the administration of this fund. The only thing, I guess, tangentially that we would be responsible for is if, as a result of some need, Tracy comes to us or a manager comes to us saying, I need to create a new classification
Yep.
because of increased responsibilities, taking on more, and we'd get involved, just like we always do in a classification meeting, but not as really, compensation is not our purview. We talk about that all the time.
So I think in that case, it should read, the fund would be administered by the town administrator with the select board approval, with advisory input from the human resources board only in the function of establishing such a fund. Like us advising them that we think that this, I think it should say something like that, because I think
Okay.
that's the intent here, because it's under why is it going to warrant
Right.
at town meeting? We're under the advisory of the HR board, but we're not I think the way it's written, we're not gonna be administering it, nor are we gonna be advising them, but
Right.
advisory input from the Human Resources Board in establishing such a fund,
In its creation or something.
in its creation,
In its
that makes,
creation,
yeah, I like
yeah.
that.
Okay,
So I would,
I would agree.
because I think they're gonna say, well, who thought this was a good idea?
yep.
Yeah, question. Have we gone through any of the local communities to see, get into their books if that is possible, or discuss with their
I started
treasury
to play with that when I was starting to do my homework on it. I did find there were some towns in Essex County that had reserve comp fund listed, but in some cases it was listed as part of the operating budget. Again, it depends upon how each town's charter is established in terms of the budgetary process. And Tracy said that she had a very preliminary conversation with town council on this, and because Newbury's budgetary process is formulated a certain way, there are certain restrictions we may have that another town may not. So one town might have it as part of their operating budget as a separate line item. We would not. We would have it as a separate comp fund, which is why, again, it has to be okayed by town meeting. So
But you're
that
gonna
makes
lose your
sense.
quorum.
Okay, I think,
So Lynn has to leave.
I have to go, I'm
She had a hard
sorry.
stop.
okay.
have
I
to
think
put in
we're
my
just
number.
about done with this
So,
conversation.
so basically, what is the next step? That we advise,
Tracy's gonna, I'll double check with her to see if in fact she's run this by town council, and see the next step for her. I assume, again, I don't wanna speak for her, but I'm guessing that once town council gives some language its blessing, then I would assume that she would wanna meet with select board in open meeting to get them to weigh in on whether they think it's a good idea. Because if the select board, I believe, if the select board doesn't buy off on
right,
the need for, the benefits of, the rationale for, then it's a dead issue. Then it never gets to town meeting. So I think FinCom and select board will be the next step in the process, once she gets some initial okay from town council.
I think the language coming out of
Yeah.
town council is
Right.
critical.
Right,
Critical.
right, okay. So, I'll double back with everybody with a quick note, not to be discussed, just a heads up where we are,
Understood.
okay.
and we'll go from there. You're gonna go.
I have to go, I'm gonna, that's gonna affect our quorum though, I think, isn't it?
Yes, but I think it's our last piece of
Adjourn
business anyway,
first.
so we still have a quorum, that's fine.
We do?
Quorum of 4, yep. Thank you,
Okay.
Lynn.
All right, thank you, see you
Good
next
to see you.
month.
Take care.
So are we meeting on the 23rd?
Yes,
So we're meeting in 3
I'll
weeks.
send that a quick note on our
Okay.
our regular scheduled 4th Monday of the month.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Okay,
bye.
thanks.
All right, any other discussion on that subject?
Nope.
Next meeting, March 23rd, does that look good for folks?
There's a good possibility I will be on Telegraph Hill
Right,
on
you
the
mentioned
23rd. Yeah. But I won't know that for a couple of days.
Well, let's plug it into the calendars with the understanding, as always, that as long as we have a quorum,
Yep.
23rd? Okay.
March 23rd, 4 PM?
In the book for now. Yep.
Okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.